A few days ago, in the German Bundesliga, in a football game between Bayern Munich and TSG Hoffenheim, in Hoffenheim, fans of Bayern Munich raised a banner that reads, "The president of Hoffenheim, Dietmar Hopp, 79 years old, is the son of a prostitute." This is a protest that has been going on in German football by fans who believe that the model at Hoffenheim is basically completely against or the opposite of the traditional system in football in Germany, which is the 50+1 rule that says that majority shares must be held by football fans, and no investor basically can own majority shares in football clubs as it is done in other parts of Europe. So they raised the banner in protest against this man who has basically invested a whole lot into football in Germany, helping Hoffenheim to reach the Bundesliga and of course Champions League, investing close to $400 million. Dietmar Hopp is a billionaire, a co-founder of SAP Energy, one of the biggest companies in Germany, and a member of the Fortune 500 in the world of business. Now, this man is highly hated by football fans in Germany, and that has seen protests across German football, in Dortmund, in Gladbach, and of course, which culminated in this one that happened in Hoffenheim. Now, this what happened. At the 67th minute of the game, after Leon Goretzka scored the 5th goal for Bayern Munich, the fans put up the banner that says, "The president of Hoffenheim, Dietmar Hopp, is the son of a prostitute." Now, the referee saw that and halted the game for a few minutes, asked the players to go out of the pitch, and then they returned a few minutes later. The players, the president, the board members of Bayern, the coaches went to the fans to try to stop them, from continuing this very disgraceful act. Now, the game continued, and a few minutes into the game again, another banner appeared with the same message. And then the referee stopped the game again, basically implementing the level 2 procedure, the level 2 of the UEFA procedure, which is originally implemented against racism in football. Now he asked the players to go out of the pitch. The players left the pitch and then returned about 30 minutes later, and then decided to play the rest of the game in an agreed truce, which means that they wouldn't score a goal in solidarity with the president of Hoffenheim. Fantastic gesture, isn't it? Brilliant gesture, to be honest, because such a man deserves support. Such a man deserves encouragement and not insult, not this kind of abuse from fans, of football. Because he's done a lot. He's invested so much in football in Germany. He's helped a club from a village that is basically is a remote village. A club from a village where you have less than 1,000 inhabitants that has gone to the Bundesliga and have reached Champions League football. It is an amazing story. I've personally visited this village in Sensheim, if I'm not mistaken. You wouldn't find anything going on in this village. But here's a man who has come to put in his life on the ground, invested a lot of money to help a club in this place to reach European football. Is commendable. That is why you saw, this kind of protest. Fantastic, like I said. But the question a lot of persons have been asking, and I myself, is that if same action can be carried out in the fight against racism, I'm sure that racism, if not completely eradicated from our stadiums, would have reduced to the barest minimum. Now, imagine a scenario where a player is racially abused and the entire field, the players of both his team and the opposing team, in solidarity with that player, stage a walkout. Imagine what that would mean to the racist who is there trying to cause problems in an atmosphere of entertainment. Now, I know there are procedures. UEFA has a rule. UEFA has implemented a procedure. There's what you call the 3-step procedures by UEFA. So my question is, if the referees can do that, why haven't they done this in football matches where players are racially insulted? We've seen so many cases where players are racially abused, and these players get furious, even get to a point of shedding tears and want to stage a walkout. You find his teammates asking him, urging him to stay on, instead of them to support this player and walk out of the pitch, damning any consequence, so that they can send a stern warning to fans who come to the stadium to insult players instead of enjoying football, that this is no longer acceptable and it cannot continue. And I also feel that somehow the big players like Ronaldo, Messi, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, Eden Hazard, Neymar are not doing enough, simply because it doesn't affect them. So they're not coming out to speak. When players like Ronaldo, Messi, Neymar, Mbappe, these big players come out to speak effusively and aggressively against racism and urge fans to stop this demonic, barbaric, and backward act, I think that racism will reduce, because the influence these guys have over football fans across the world is huge. So if they come out, instead of all of these performative action that they get involved in, these UEFA programs, respect, fight against racism, these are just mere words. They are not, real action. And like they say, action speaks louder than words. If big players, big coaches, clubs, governing bodies of football come together, put up a collective action, a drastic and practical action like what we saw in Hoffenheim against racism, I think that racism would have reduced in football. So I think that there's a high level of hypocrisy in the perceived fight against racism in football. What happened in Hoffenheim basically brought that to the front burner and took it to the highest of levels in terms of the level of hypocrisy in football in Europe, in terms of as far as the fight against racism is concerned. And guess what? A week before this incident, Jordan Torunariga, the black German-born, German-raised Hertha Berlin defender, was racially abused in Gelsenkirchen in a game between Hertha Berlin and Schalke 04, a German Cup game. And this same player eventually got a red card. A player that was racially abused, who was very, very destabilized, as a result of such insult. Got hacked by a player of Schalke, and of course ran into the coach of Schalke. And then he was a bit frustrated. He hit the water on the floor, he hit a water bottle on the floor, and then he got a red card. This is how you treat a player that was minutes ago racially abused. So these are the things I'm talking about. Instead of players, black players who are racially abused, getting support from their teammates, from match officials, they are actually getting punishments. It is an amazing level of hypocrisy, in football in Europe. If you call it the beautiful game, then erase this demonic and devilish cancer called racism. Otherwise, football will lose its beauty. So once again, before I end, come to think about it. If the big stars like Messi, like Ronaldo, like Neymar, Mbappe, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, some of the biggest players in the world, continue and consistently speak against racism, a lot will change. So I think that these big players are not doing enough. Basically, of course, for obvious reasons, it does not affect them. But it is not just about them, but about the collective good of football. They have teammates who are blacks, who are not white. These teammates must be treated with respect. If a fan comes to the stadium, instead of enjoying football, is insulting a player who is not of the same skin color as he is, and then players cannot, in solidarity with their teammates, stage a walkout, then there's a problem with football.